What's up, peeps? Are you on console and controller and you want to beam like this with any weapon in Warzone? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a video for you. So I'm going to break this video down in 3 parts. Number 1 is going to be understanding the attachments. Number 2 is a quick little exercise that will help you tremendously. And number 3, and the most important one, is a little secret. It's more of an idea that'll change the way that you think of recoil in this game. So for the first one, let's jump into the attachments. And what I mean understand the attachments. Well, there are certain attachments for specific either Modern Warfare, Black Ops, or Vanguard weapons that you really need to understand. Let's go with the Modern Warfare weapons, right? I'm not really going to talk about the monolithic suppressors or putting the barrels that do state recoil control. That's pretty self-explanatory. But one of the best things I want to tell you guys is the combat hollow sights or any hollow scope will have significantly less visual recoil than, for example, a VLK or the red dot sight. There's just something about the hollow sights that are a little bit more zoomed in, but just not as zoomed in as other scopes that make the visual recoil a lot less. Number 2, what is the best underbarrel? Should you go like with the Merc? Should you go with the Ranger? Should you go with the Commando? Well, this is pretty simple to answer. If your gun bounces from side to side like the Ram does, it has a little bit of horizontal recoil, then that's when you use the Commando. Maybe guns like the Modern Warfare from AK-47, that is when you use. If your gun just shoots straight forward, like for example the M13, the best one is not going to be the Commando. The best one is actually going to be the Ranger foregrip. So Ranger foregrip is going to be exclusively for that vertical recoil control. But again, if you have a little bit of bounciness, horizontal recoil, that is when you choose the Commando foregrip. Or again, it just maybe depends on what you want to negate. Do you want to take away horizontal, put Commando? Do you want to take that vertical, then go ahead and put the Ranger. Cold War weapons are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, we know the 3 best attachments are the GRU suppressor. We got the last underbarrel, the last barrel that's what will take the horizontal and vertical. And then when we go for the underbarrel, you got the Spetsnaz grip or you got the Field Ranger grip. And those are going to be your 3 best attachments to combat that recoil in Cold War weapon. Now, Vanguard weapons get a little bit more interesting, but again, they're not really that hard. Obviously, we know that the barrel is one of the most important things. When you put the barrel and when you put the Mercury silencer, it significantly reduces the recoil. Now, this also has to do with horizontal and vertical. If your gun purely has vertical recoil, again, remember the polymer grip is the best for the vertical grips, for the rear grips. And when you go up to the underbarrel, the carbon grip is pretty good, but the best one for the vertical recoil is still going to be the M1941 hand stop. Obviously, some people like to choose the carver because this gives you better hipfire accuracy, and the hand stop actually reduces some of that hipfire. But again, if you want it for the best vertical recoil control, the M1941 is going to be the best one for the job. Now, one of the most important ones is also going to be the stock. And most of the weapon, again, the weapon just shoots up. So a lot of people for this one, for example, chose this one, the one that says accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. Any perk that says any attachment that says this is for vertical recoil. Now, the problem specifically with this gun was the horizontal recoil. Now, this video did really good, and one of my biggest changes for my stock was this one. This one takes away horizontal recoil, and it significantly reduced that visual recoil for the gun because the gun just doesn't move at all. Now, one of the most important things you guys want to have to know, whether it's Cold War weapons, Vanguard weapons, Modern Warfare, is that horizontal recoil is one of the hardest ones to control because horizontal recoil is kind of like a bounciness from side to side, right? But the vertical recoil is going to be a lot easier because all you have to do is you just have to put that stick, move it down a little bit more. If you got horizontal recoil, it's moving like from left to right. So any gun that moves side to side, kind of like the AS-44, is going to be a little bit harder to control. So when you put something like this that controls that horizontal recoil, it's going to make the gun super easy to beam. So now this little exercise that I'm about to show you guys really does change the way you control recoil. And I'm going to show it with the Ram 7 because the Ram 7 is one of those guns that a lot of people love, but they just can't seem to handle the recoil. So one of the things you want to do is, let's say you are trying to use this weapon. All you want to do is jump into Plunder, whatever game mode there is. You can even do this in the pre-game lobby. It doesn't really take that long. Go ahead and just shoot, right? And just shoot and take a look at the recoil pattern of this gun. As we can see here, it significantly shoots to the left. I mean, significantly, right? So a lot of people are like, man, I ain't using this. So what you want to do is you want to divide the recoil control on this one. So first, we're going to see that there is a little bit of vertical recoil, but most of the recoil goes to the left. So again, remember, this is always the opposite. If the vertical recoil goes up, that means on your analog stick you have to move down. If the vertical recoil moves to the left, that means you have to move your analog stick to the right, sorry. So here it is moving a little bit up and then to the left. that means we have to move down and to the right. And again, this little step right here is super important because I feel a lot of people just jump into the game, grab a gun, and like try to control the recoil just by looking at it, right? But that's not the way, because now that I have this visual in my head, I kind of know where it's gonna kick and I can correct that recoil before it's too late. So now let's go with a pretty easy one, right? Let's go with a 32-meter beam. So I'm just gonna go, remember, down and to the left. And remember, we're not gonna go that aggressive here. So all we gotta do is down to the left. And as you guys can see there, almost no recoil from my part. But now that was pretty easy. Let's take a little bit further. Now let's go with this one. Again, remember, a little bit down to the right and, sorry, down and to the right. And again, remember, the further you are from your target, the more you'll have to, a little bit more you'll have to compensate, all right? And again, we try here, 37 meters. Remember, we go down and then to the right. And as you guys can see there, I'm just barely moving it. Again, even though it seems crazy, like crazy recoil, you have to understand there's this thing called initial recoil. Some guns have a little bit more than others. So just because you see a crazy kick doesn't mean you have to go down like super hard. Remember, do small adjustments. So again, we're trying to beam that dude out of the window. Let's go even further. Let's go that one all the way over there. Again, remember, down and to the right, down and to the right. As you can see, this is a little bit harder, but again, I missed my initial shots, but then again, I didn't move my stick along. So you gotta understand, at first you're gonna have a little bit more vertical recoil, but then you'll find your way. And obviously that is a pretty long beam, especially for somebody on console. And that's something you have to understand. Not every single one is gonna be beaming, right? And obviously I'm not an expert in this gun. So I mean, the more you use this gun, the more you'll be familiar with that recoil. But again, just remember, there are some weapons that have weird recoil at the beginning and then tend to straighten out. So what my suggestion is, don't try to compensate for that initial recoil. Let it play out, and then you'll see that you'll have significantly better recoil control. And now this is, again, we're going to be talking about more of the ideal of the recoil control. And that is that every time you shoot a weapon that has high recoil, it doesn't need to seem like the weapon is not moving at all. It's okay for the weapon to move a little bit, right? There's some guns like this one, again, that as you guys can see, it moves a little bit from side to side, right? A little bit bounces. And there's just parts of that weapon that you just won't be able to control. So what you try to do is you try to guide basically your monster, right? You try to guide it as best as you can, but without nitpicking the details. When you try to nitpick the details, that is when you make a little bit more mistakes, right? That's when the gun shoots up and then you go further down and then to the right and then to the left, because you're trying to overcompensate that recoil. What I try to do is, it's a beast, right? Your weapon is an animal. Don't try to tame it completely. Just remember, instead of letting go all the way up, remember to guide it. And as you guys can see, my weapon is still moving, but with the help of the guidance, as you guys can see there, it seems like there's a lot of visual recoil, right? And the weapon's moving a little bit side to side, but I'm controlling the monster and I'm landing the shots where I want. This is excellent beams. And again, you don't always have to have like the gun not moving completely a lot, like if you were mounted. Remember, some guns are just gonna have a lot more visual recoil than another. And when guns have a little bit more visual recoil than another, remember, you just try to tame the beast. You just try to make sure your shots land around where you want to land them. But if you try to overcompensate that recoil, that's when you start messing up and pulling down a little bit too much, pulling up a little bit too much. But again, one of the most important tips that I got for you guys is practice on this one definitely does make perfect, sorry. Because the more you practice with this weapon, the more you know the recoil, like if it's the back of your head, you're going to do significantly better. Ladies and gentlemen, that was it for today. Peace out, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one.